Welcome to the Bloody Arcade, Episode 2.
I'm player 1, Danielle.
And I'm player 2, Chris.
Awesome. How you doing, Chris?
I'm doing pretty good. That intro music gets me hyped.
Yeah.
I like it.
Gets you scared. There might be
gets me in the
someone
mode.
behind you.
It's just the bunny. Okay.
Oh, okay. Bunnies can be scary. Have you ever seen Monty Python? Just saying.
Have you ever seen this bunny?
Oh, I love him. Cool. So today in this episode, we're bringing you horror movie news from Del Toro, a video game news from an indie horror game called Negative Atmosphere that I always want to say Nightmare Atmosphere for some reason. And then our first That's Original segment reviewing an original movie from Netflix. It's a horror movie called Hush, and it's one of my favorites. Also, you are going to do a horror game review, and we'll wrap up with our On the Hook with Dead by Daylight news. So,
awesome. Well, let's start it out with your horror movie news. What do you got for us?
Cool. So, Del Toro is coming out with a movie based on a short story called The Quiet Boy. He is renaming it Antlers, but he's going to team up with Nick Antosca. I don't know how to say his name. I hope that's correct, but he's teaming up with him who co-wrote Channel Zero. He's really big in horror news right now, so it's really cool that he's teaming up with him. But the short story got released online. We put it up on our Bloody Arcade Twitter if you guys need to go read that. Have you read it?
I opened the link. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that I actually read it.
That's fine. It's there for you to read, everyone to read.
It's saved eternally on Twitter. So
yeah, forever. Nothing is safe on Twitter. But we're hoping that this comes out soon with like a trailer or any other news because we don't really know anything except for the cast. Carrie Russell, who played Felicity, I don't know if you remember that show, but it was freaking huge. She's going to be playing the main character. I'm not going to say what she plays because I want you guys to read the story. But Felicity is going to be... Oh, I called her Felicity. Carrie Russell, who played Felicity, is going to be in that. Jesse Plemons, who was in Game Night and Breaking Bad. Did you ever watch Breaking Bad?
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, he was in that Black Mirror. That's what you're talking about, right? That guy?
Oh,
so good. He's been in some other random ones, but he's a real good bad guy.
He's really good at being weird.
So, yeah.
Like, he's weird in everything, so I'm into that. And then Graham Greene, which I didn't know, I had to look him up, but he was in Green Mile, Dances with Wolves, and he voiced Rain's Fall, which is a Native American guy from Red Dead Redemption 2, which you know that I'm obsessed with.
It's ruining your life.
Yeah. So out of everything, I was pretty excited about that the most. So that's what I got for that so far. We don't really know much. There is a picture up of kind of like the artwork for it on Bloody Disgusting. But other than that we just know the cast, and then you can read the short story. So the short story has a lot of imagery in it. It's a lot of describing where this kid lives. He's like poor, and he lives in a poor neighborhood, and the grime that they describe. I just can't wait for Del Toro to
yeah, of all the things, it's got Del Toro doing. So
yeah,
I mean,
he's a visual artist, so it's going to be disgusting. So, yeah.
I like it.
That is it on that. You guys can read the short story. Like we said, we put the link on our Twitter at the Bloody Disgust. We put our link on our Twitter, Bloody Arcade, and you guys can go read it there. So, what do you got for us for games?
Well, I've just got a couple items for gaming news. One, I'll probably try and put the link for the Unreal PT. It's kind of like a recreation of that PT. And I've looked at it. It is really good. It's just some people recreated it in the Unreal Engine.
It is beautiful.
It's so good. And so definitely worth checking out. It's free to download, I think. So I think it's going to stay that way. I don't know if they intend to do much else with it, but They just kind of recreated it almost a one-for-one. I think there are some small differences here and there, but that looks really good. And then
I watched someone stream the PT, the Unreal PT, and it is. I mean, the original is beautiful, but
yeah,
everything is just. It's like different enough to be an Unreal, but it's like still so close. I don't know. All the textures, everything looks so good.
Yeah, and it's definitely the same like type of game. They were for sure going for that same looping insanity feeling that you got from PT.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely check that out. It's always fun to just play back through it. We played PT. Did you come over when we played through all that? We did it for like literally an entire almost day.
I don't remember because when that game came out, which is crazy because it's not even a game, it's a playable trailer. But when that game came out, I mean, everywhere you went was like, you want to play PT? You want to play PT? So like I played it like 28 times or watched people play it. So I'm not sure if I came over or not.
Yeah, well, we definitely grinded it. And I that was good. I think I don't know that I would want to play it more. People are like buying PS4s with it on there and stuff, and the Unreal thing is cool because it has a little bit of a difference, but man, it does make you feel crazy. It's like just the concept, like, have I been here? I just opened the door. Was that there before? What's happening?
And like the turn to where like Lisa always is, you're just like,
yep.
I don't want to. I don't want to go over there, but it's so.
It makes me get a little hyped about Visage, which is actually, I guess that's game news. We're going to be doing, that'll be the next review coming up. Will be Visage. Very excited about that. That definitely has the same feel as well for that sort of like, exploration / have you been there before? Kind of like what was that? Dreams or. Oh man, I forget what that one was called, but yeah, there's a couple of games out there like that. Definitely worth a check out. And then next thing on my list, Soma, kind of back to last episode, is now on Discord / Nitro Games. And also, if you haven't heard, Nitro Games subscription, you can pay $100 a year and you just get all these games. Just a random. I'm totally on board with these. Like, just give me an access to a full library, like that PS Now thing.
That's cool.
That's very cool. So yeah, or $99 a year or $9 a month. That's what I said. But yeah, Soma's on there. You can play it for free with a little subscription.
So is that like a predetermined list of games, or do you pick your games?
It's predetermined. Yeah. So they just have like this list of games that you choose from. It's pretty cool.
Hello?
Yeah. Seems worthwhile. Obviously, that's not a plug. That's just a random thing that I found, and you might be into it. There were some good games on. We are not, but we are open. Discord. We are ready.
We are ready for the subscriptions, the sponsors.
Even if you just give us a free subscription, that's fine too.
That's fine. Yeah, just one. We can share.
Just one's fine.
Yeah.
And then of course, Resident Evil released. We did not get to play the demo. We tried. 28
seconds. That's all I had to play.
I don't know if anyone watched the stream. We did stream that one, and
Dead by Daylight, but
yeah, it just crashed right away, and so I don't know what the deal was there, but it looks really good. It's definitely gonna end up on our Twitch channel.
Have you
so
watched
definitely be keeping an eye. Oh yeah, I tried not to, but it's so good looking.
Yeah.
I want to have a time to sit down and just play it for a long stretch. Definitely should stream that when I do.
Yeah, Resident Evil 2 came out at the same time as Kingdom Hearts 3. And
don't care.
Yeah. Ouch. Any viewers that like Kingdom Hearts 3, sorry about that. But my brother got it. He got Resident Evil and then immediately got Kingdom Hearts 3, and I was like, hey, I know you're more excited about Kingdom Hearts 3, so if you want to just
if
let me
you got Resident Evil, you should give it to me.
And he was like, yeah, this is why I get physical games so you can borrow them. I'm like, I'm an asshole because I get digital, and he always calls me out. But yeah, so I'm going to try to borrow that so we can play it. Maybe we'll have some updates and later episodes because I'm upset we didn't get to stream it. It was so ready. It was there.
Yeah, it looked so good. It just would crash whenever we would get to that first cutscene, and so there was just all there was to it. We were doomed.
Yep, that's it.
And then next here we've got Silent Hill turned 20 years old. When was that? The other day? Last week?
It was I think it was about 2 or 3 days ago, I want to say.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Turned 20 years old.
I don't know. Can't find an immediate date, but that happened recently, so that's cool. But no signs of its rebirth, unfortunately. I would love to see Pyramid Head be in Dead by Daylight. That would just be so cool. It's a classic at this point. I mean, that's what they said. They only are doing the ones. That's freaking classic.
Do they have killers from other video games?
They don't have killers, but they do have Billy Boy from Left 4 Dead.
Oh, Billiam.
Oh, Bill.
Billiam, come over here.
Creepy Bill.
They need to introduce killers from other games. I'm just saying.
They're real. That would be so cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then we've got Negative Atmosphere, which actually I think that was sort of like the Dead Space feel that they're going for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think you had a little more info on that one than I did.
Yeah, well, they don't really have much on it, but it kind of got released or talked about the same day of the 20-year anniversary of Silent Hill, so they're kind of looping that together as in, hey, I know you're sad, but we've got this new indie game on Kickstarter. I guess the creator's name is Calvin Parsons, but he initially started it alone, and then now he has a team, so I'm interested.
Okay.
The trailers you can find, I guess they're clips, not really trailers, but you can find some clips on Bloody Disgusting. That's the only place I've seen talk about it. If you Google it, it's like the first one that comes up. But they look so scary. It's like,
yeah, I saw the one clip of the thing coming off the ground. Honestly, gave me a little bit of Soma vibe because it was kind of like a robot-y, half-human-y sort of thing.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I definitely dig that.
It was very scary, but I'm interested. I am kind of more interested in indie games at this point for like horror than big releases because it's so mysterious. Like Visage, it's still in the works. I'm like, come on, when do I get to play you? When do I get to like experience this?
Honestly, I like the indie ones more so because a lot of the story ends. You know, like you don't have to get through 40 hours or whatever of game. They're only like $20 usually, 8 hours maybe of gameplay, and that was it. That was a spooky ride, and maybe there's replayability. You know, maybe there isn't. Who cares? And you know, they're just legit scary. They have an actual good story that they tell, and you don't have to wade through random boring puzzles or whatever, you know, just to get through the game. So that's what I really like because they don't have the budget. They don't spend on that crap.
Yeah. Well, and I always think back to Little Nightmares as like an indie game, and I know Anthony, shout out Something Ghoulish, wanted you to play it, like to review that, and I haven't. But that game, like you said, I think it was $30. I can't remember, but I bought all the DLC. It was replayable. I mean, that it had a story that looped back around in the DLC. I don't know. It was an indie game. It was one of the best games I've ever played in my life. And it was not $60. It was not $60. And there were clear-cut like puzzles and chapters to the game with a story. Good graphics. Good.
And Little Nightmares is a side-scroller, right?
Yes.
Okay. And what's the one? I played the other one. Every time you say Little Nightmares, it makes me think of... It's like Little Something, I swear, but like you're like this kid.
Among the Sleep.
Among the Sleep, yes. That was so good.
Well, I'm not
I had so much fun in that game.
But that game...
So good.
It's so many emotions. That game is so scary and sad.
Sad, yeah. Yeah, very good.
It's so good. But, cool.
All right, and then I think that was pretty much all I had for news. And I guess, next up, we are doing your review.
Horror movie review.
Horror. Excellent.
Cool. Alright, guys, your voices were heard from the Twitter poll gods, and I'm going to review the Netflix original movie Hush for our very first That's Original segment. Hush is a 2016 slasher movie directed and edited by Mike Flanagan, starring Kate Siegel, who also co-wrote the film. It was jointly produced by Trevor Macy through Intrepid Pictures and Jason Blum through Blumhouse Productions, and the film had its world premiere at South by Southwest. Something I find really fascinating is Mike Flanagan is married to the main actress Kate Siegel and wrote and directed Haunting of Hill House, where she dominates her role in playing Theo. It seems that when they join forces, they write pure gold because that show is amazing and did really well. You can also find it on Netflix. Hush is a crazy cat and mouse horror movie about Maddie, a deaf author living alone with her cat. She is trying to successfully live alone, and she attempts to prove this by cooking from an online recipe and failing at the beginning of the movie. The viewer is met with Maddie's neighbor, a friend, early on in the movie when she comes to visit Maddie. Soon, the difficulties of living alone show their teeth, when we see Maddie's neighbor struggling for her life outside of a glass door, all while Maddie is completely oblivious. Maddie's long-distance sister takes notice of the neighbor's murderer standing behind her during a FaceTime call, but Maddie simply brushes it off as a cat and moves on. After she hangs up, however, she begins receiving photos of herself in her home from who we can only assume is the masked murderer. From there, the movie unravels into a tense, blood-pumping chase where Maddie's house becomes her prison. This movie does a great job of showing how terrifying it can be, not only to be able to not hear, but to be isolated in the woods as well. There are two parts of the movie that stick with me. The first is when Maddie, the main actress, writes a note while being watched by the killer through her kitchen door. The sign she makes states that she hasn't seen his face because of the mask he's wearing, so he can leave and she'll never know who he was. He then removes the mask, showing her he has no intention of getting away with whatever happens in the house. He just is there for the pure fun of killing, and he wants to be known. This shows how much of a deranged killer we're dealing with, and sets the mood for the rest of the movie, while giving a great homage to one of the best horror intruder movies, The Strangers. The second is when you hear tapping off-screen and assume he's tapping on the window. The scene then shows you that the killer is using the hand of a body of someone he had killed earlier to tap on the window, showing Maddie what he's done. This scene always sends shivers down my spine. You can see the terror within Maddie's eyes of realizing whose hand he's tapping on the window with. I give this film 4.5 out of 5 stabs. This movie was highly entertaining and was an insanely unique take on intruders with the intention of pure thrill of the hunt. I highly recommend giving this a watch on Netflix. I'm so glad this was picked up by Netflix as an original from South by Southwest. Netflix is a hit or miss on originals, but here lately I've been pretty into them, and I plan on sharing them all with you. Don't forget to follow at The Bloody Arcade on Twitter for our future polls, so you can choose your favorite horror movies to be reviewed by us. Alright, that was my review on the Netflix original Hush for our first ever That's Original segment. I'm glad I got to start with that movie because it was one of my favorites. Probably the most viewed Netflix original movie that I have seen on their outlet. But you guys picked it on the Twitter poll. I'm glad you did because I got to watch it again for like the 5th time, I think. But yeah, so just to go over some of the talking points from my review, the relationship between Kate Siegel and Mike Flanagan, I need them to stay together forever because whatever they make is perfect.
Pure gold.
Yes, pure gold.
Bloody gold.
Have you seen Haunting of Hill House?
Yes. Oh man.
So
good. And
good.
She is so good in it. She's just kind of good in everything. She's kind of just, she's got like that dangerous sexy going on. You know she's up
She does. She does. And that's another point about Hush is she starts out like, I wouldn't say weak, but just unprepared for this to be happening. So she's just kind of like, what do I do? Like, I'm just running around. And then she, like, turns into badass mode, and she's like, all right, I'm going to fuck this shit up. And it takes me back to another movie called The Collector. It's kind of The Strangers meets The Collector, because in The Collector, he's, like, stuck in this house with a bunch of traps that this killer put in, and he has to, like, make his way out, but obviously he wasn't ready for this. So at first he's like, the fuck do I do? But then he becomes badass mode. So I like that in both of those movies. Again, The Strangers, that movie is one of those movies ever made. So the homage to that, of him just kind of looking at her through the windows when she doesn't know, and
being all around creepy.
Yes, the silence of, her being deaf, and it's kind of very visual on the scares because she can't hear. So I don't know, it's very good. Along in the cast, there's a really small cast. Obviously, it's just Kate Siegel, who plays Maddie, the neighbor, which I don't know her name. Sorry, neighbor. And then her boyfriend, and then the killer, basically. And the killer is John Gallagher Jr. He was in Cloverfield 10 Cloverfield Lane, sorry. Did you ever watch that movie?
Yep. Yeah.
So good.
Well, the 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's the one where they're in the basement?
Yes. Okay, yeah. With John Goodman.
And the other one, the other one's different. Okay.
Yes. But he's so good in that movie. Like, he's a good guy.
John Goodman being scary, he's just so big that him being like angry and evil is immediately believable. Like, yeah, man, you could just kill me. Yeah, I'm sure you could. Yeah. I'm sure you could come at me and just destroy me.
Yeah, you could literally throw me through the stairs. But, and he is, I could get in a whole thing about that movie. But John Gallagher Jr., he was so nice and timid and like good boy in that movie, and then he turns around and is just a freak in this movie. I'm like, yes, we love a versatile actor. We love that. Yeah. But yeah, so in the review, I gave it 4.5 stabs, or as you say, 4 stabs and a slice. Slice. What'd you think of this movie?
I'd give it a good 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a nice, like, psychological thriller, I guess.
Very.
Yeah, so, I thought it was really well done. And it's just wild. Like, we were talking, I originally didn't even think it was a Netflix original. I don't know why, because they have so many good things. But it just seemed like one of those things. It's like, well, this is just a normal, like, theater quality movie. Yeah, but it's just another original. But yeah, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, agreed. But cool. So, listeners, tell us what you think on Twitter of this movie. I've seen it, like, again, I said 5 times. Let me know what you guys think, and just give it a review of yourself. And so we're going to do those Twitter polls where they get to do that's original. And now we're going to do that, like, today. And then how long does that last? The poll, like, how long is it open? Well, without giving away any surprises, we'll probably do it for a week since we're going to be changing our schedule. All right. Okay. So starting today, you've got until next Saturday, the whatever next Saturday is, Saturday the 9th, February 9th, to vote for the poll to see what we review next time on Twitter. Yes, on Twitter. It's any original, so Shudder, Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, they've all got originals now, which I think is dope, because I don't have to go to the movies. Now I can just... Truth. I have all the streaming things, so and Shudder, just give it to me. Shudder has their originals, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So good. Cool. So, yeah. All right. Well, that wraps up the horror movie review portion. Now we'll get into the game review with Chris. Game review. And I've got Forest on the way. Let's get into it. The Forest was released by End Night Games on April 30th, 2018, after spending a comfortable 4 years in early access. End Night is a small independent studio with its only other release being an iOS game aptly titled End Night HD.
The iOS game is a single-player, open-world zombie survival game, and to the best of my research was released in 2012. It looks like that game is targeted at the iPad too, so I wasn't able to get much more info on it. It's also not listed on their site. Watching some of the gameplay that I could find told me that The Forest is exactly the kind of game that N. Knight had always intended to make. In the forest, you are the lone survivor, unless you're playing with friends, of a plane that has crashed on an unknown island. This island is inhabited by mostly angry indigenous people. You are tasked with surviving the elements, keeping yourself fed and hydrated, crafting items and weapons, building campsites and bases. Most importantly, though, you are tasked with finding your son, Timmy, who you were seated next to on the plane before its mysterious crash landing. The environment in the forest is at times awe-inspiring, and sometimes it is just frustrating. The forest, for me, was a tug-of-war of being truly impressed with the level of detail and depth of the world that you roam, and just not really wanting to roam it at all. You start out on top of a large hill area, and you get this nice vista that shows off the forest's best attributes, which are the graphics and the immersion. As you explore the world, it is easy to get lost in the brush of the forest and get sidetracked with just checking out the wildlife and multiple environmental zones. N. Knight does a great job of really bringing you into the forest, and the feeling of exploring is very realistic. There's wildlife running around that you can kill and harvest for food and crafting materials. There are deer, bunnies, lizards, alligators, and you can even smack the birds out of the sky if you want to. You can spear the amazingly rendered fish right out of the water and gather berries right off the bushes. You will find random campsites with suitcases of loot that you can crack open for resources littered throughout the forest, supposedly from the fallen plains. You won't make it too far before finding a cave, and this is where you spend a lot of time in the forest. You start most caves by rappelling down a long rope with only your lighter to show you your surroundings. The caves are dark, and I mean dark. You can't see the wall you are running into most of the time. The caves are the most scary part for me. They do a really good job of making you feel trapped underground, and once you get so far in and your supplies start running low, that's when the reality of just not knowing when things are going to end really sets in. They are dark caves with sporadic pools of water and drippy, cold ambiance throughout. Multiple times I found myself clinging to the memory of the bright, lush forest that is waiting for me once I exit the cave as just motivation to push on. That feeling, though, whenever you finally make it out and then it's nighttime, is almost a spiteful feeling. The cave exploring leads into the gameplay section, as it is actually the biggest conflict for me. You could spend hours exploring a cave, getting lost in it, getting killed by a surprise pack of enemies, getting turned around and ending up exactly where you got started, just like a real cave. N. Knight had a task of immersing you and making you feel as though you are doing whatever action it is that you are doing. It does a really good job of that, to the point where my claustrophobia made me want to just close the game after being in a cave for what felt like hours. It is that feeling of thinking, this feels so real, and at the same time finding out you don't actually like caving, and you won't be doing that in real life. It wasn't all conflicting though. The main reason you are exploring the caves is to progress the story, and a bit more on that later. When I wasn't begging for the sweet release of death in a cave, my group and I were topside, building a home base. The crafting and building in the forest is well thought out, easy to grasp, and allows you to be creative in what you do. You can build zip lines, boats, huge walls to protect the variety of houses you can make. You can fill your sweet slice of home with campfires, drying racks, crop plots, and human bone storage? Oh, what's that? You don't store human bones? Well, then how do you make bone arrows? There's a full sanity system in game, and the further down the crazy hole you get, the more creative you can become with the human body parts that you harvest from the fallen locals. These locals, you find out, are actually cannibals, and you can build fun little statues out of their body parts, and when you post that nice statue outside of your town walls, it acts as kind of a cannibal repellent for a while. The building and crafting kept us busy for probably 70% of the 30 hours that we put into the forest. Occasionally we took a break to soldier forward in a cave to get to the next piece of story. The story, though, is probably the weakest area of the forest, which was unfortunate because it was the biggest draw for me. An open world game with an actual story? One day. The story of the forest borders on make your own story. You get a little tiny piece of a story written on little notes or random pictures that you find in the caves and around the island. You are fed little tiny bits of the story and left to kind of fill in the gaps by yourself. There are really only 2 to 3 real cutscenes in the whole game, and they're at the beginning and at the end. There were multiple small little things you could do, such as offerings and finding these mixtapes that I thought were maybe going to lead to something that just never really went anywhere. This leads me to the final verdict for the forest, which is a 3 out of 5 stabs. And if I could give it like half of a stab, like kind of a 3 stabs and a slice, I definitely would give it that because it deserves it. But it really loses most of its stabbings due to the way it delivered or really didn't deliver the story. The graphics are amazing, and they recently pushed a new update that added some items, enemies, and graphic improvements. It's definitely worth a playthrough with some friends, but it's important to go into it without the expectation of a fleshed out story, because I can speak from experience that that's a little bit of a letdown. Definitely check out The Forest. Alrighty, and that was The Forest. And I definitely liked it. I had a good time. I gave it a little bit of a low rating, but that was, like I said, basically due to the story. You and I played it quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, the three of us really, we did all the things I think that you could. We tried to find all the little bits and pieces and stuff, which I don't generally like doing in games, but it was really, it just came down to the story was there, and I think maybe that's what I wanted to say outside of the review was the story itself. There is a story to this game. There is. It's in there. There's lore. It's probably a better way to put it. There's less story, more lore.
Absolutely. Now, there is story, but it's not executed correctly. Like,
it's not.
It's so very confusing to find the story.
Mm-hmm.
Because you mentioned in your review, like, it's an open world with a story. Cool. But I need to find it. Like, I need to be able to find it.
And I think, if I remember right, you could go into a cave and find something out of order.
Mm-hmm.
So you would find, like, the third piece of the story, but you never found the first two. So it was just like this totally random, and of course it was just kind of like a limerick. Like, it wasn't even like anything that made sense in the first place. So trying to tie that into the other stuff, that's why it felt like a little bit like a choose your own adventure sort of thing, because as you found the story, you were just left to fill in the gaps, and that's usually okay, but there's got to be something that ties that together for you, and that only came through at the very end of our
play. Very end.
So, I thought it was cool that there was multiple endings. No spoilers there, but there are definitely multiple endings. It's going to be obvious when you play through what those are. And I do like the story itself. I think that's what was so frustrating, is that it looked like there was a really good story there. Like I don't want to give away too much, because again, the meat of the story really comes in at the very end. You get an idea, the cannibals and stuff. This I don't think will be a spoiler. There are kind of these like mutated looking things that you fight against for like the whole game.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of different creatures. So there's like, I don't know, the yellers, the ones that just scream, "Ee!" And then the ones that just sneak up behind you, or the big fat guys. Like, there's a lot of different creatures. Which is cool.
And to that point, actually, they just did that update where they added even more creatures, more things you can build, more housing things. Like, it was a decent update, but for us, having put so much time into it already, even trying to go back to it once you know that what the whole thing is, and we tried hard. I wanted to fly, but I just couldn't. I couldn't get into it. So, but it's definitely worth that first playthrough. I 3 and a slice is a bit of a low rating, but at the same time, that's what it. I mean, it wasn't. It was that much of a game. That if the story had been complete, it would have been way higher because everything else was done so well. But yeah, it was scary. Also, being in the caves, so scary. Like
so scary.
just
because you hear them coming for you. You're like, okay, which way? It's echoey. Where are my friends? I'm lost. And
easy. We were all three on voice comms right next to each other, still getting separated and lost from each other. And once you're lost, it's just like it's so dark and you've got such a little tiny, flashlight or lighter that it's impossible to find it.
And the creatures beat your ass.
They totally do. You've got to pre-plan. You can make weapons and armor and all sorts of stuff, and it gets pretty important later game.
Yeah, very.
Again, another cool thing. If only they had just kind of given it a purpose. So yeah. It was definitely pretty good. You can get it super cheap now. The game studio is very indie, so I think for the studio, probably if we were just rating it on the indie scale, it gets a higher than a 3. But as a game overall, definitely.
Yeah, I agreed with you with the 3.5 stabs. It was a good game. I was obsessed with it. I was like, we're going to play Forest, we're going to play, we're going to build, because the building was fun. I mean, our base was tight, but it was a good game until it was just like, oh, that's the end. Like, it just came abruptly, and I was like, oh, okay, kind of like Strange Brigade, side note. Oh. But it was fun while you're there, but then it's over, and you're like, wait, that's not enough. Like, there's not enough.
Yeah, once you finally get another piece of the story, it's the last piece. And what? So, yeah, I agree. It's definitely good. Play it at whatever price it is. It's definitely worth it at this point. So, I didn't realize before I was looking into this, it spent 4 years in early access. We got it after it was released. So, I can't even imagine if you played it before then. I'm sure there was a lot of changes and slow additions and stuff. Definitely good now, though.
Yeah, very good. We tested that at least, so.
Yeah, we tested almost all the elements. The building of body parts, we had mini effigies.
Oh, my favorite part. That was so weird and gross, but.
So good. I built one of all heads, because you can just decapitate them, limb, all the parts. Fire. And so I just built one that was just a big pillar of heads.
Pillar of head. Well. Yeah, and fun fact, for when you guys do play the game, that helps you. Doing those effigies helps your base, because
it literally, like I said in the review, it's cannibal repellent.
Yeah. Yep.
So
good.
Cool. And that was pretty much all the extra talking points I had there. Definitely a good game. Check it out. And then next up, we have our fun and super exciting segment. Let's take another ride on the hook.
Wait, do you hear that?
No. What is it? Oh, I think he's getting.
He's getting.
Start teabagging. It never it never gets any better. It still hurts. We
right
practice. I thought I was gonna feel better. I don't.
No one's coming to get me either, so.
There's that Claudette. She's just hiding in the bushes. She's definitely hatch camping.
Hatch camper.
Oh, boo. Let's be real. It's really the ace. That's who's hatch camping.
Just ace who? Whoever plays ace. I don't know.
The saltiest of the salt bags. That's who.
Yeah.
The saltiest salt pouch.
Yeah. The saltiest lips.
But all right. Well, let's get into this. Friggin' hooks.
Let's get into this so we can get off of these.
The biggest news, I guess, is probably the event, Moonrise event. Woo!
More fireworks.
Yeah, and the event this time, I gotta say, really liking it better than the Hallowed Blight.
Yeah.
The way it works is as you repair gens, you accrue points every time you repair gens, and then there are these cool looking lanterns throughout the map that if you take one of those and escape the trial with it, you get 25 points. And the killer has the opportunity to break them throughout the match to get points as well.
Yes.
So So the survivor, what that means is versus just trying to get your stuff and get out, you have to progress the game if you want to get the maximum points, which is something they didn't do last time. Last time you could just get your pustules, and that's all you needed, and then you were done. So I think it's been a lot less salty, a lot less grindy event, and they have some cool skins. I unfortunately don't really play either of those characters skins are for, but the Huntress has a very cool outfit.
Yes.
So that's probably what I will end up getting.
Yeah. The Feng Min one. It looks just like Jaina in Heroes when they did the lunar event.
Right.
So it looks really good.
It looks really good. They all look really good. And Ace is actually the other guy, and it looks so good.
Yeah.
But
Dead by Daylight really does a good job with their detail in what you can get, like customization.
Yeah.
They do such a good job with like every event. Those Christmas sweaters were so good, it's just so fun.
Oh man. I definitely care more about the cosmetics, I think, in DVD than I do in other games. And it's funny because in this you can just play any character with any, like, it's not like you need to play one character or the other. It's just fun to have the cosmetics for the different ones. Like I played Dwight differently than I played, even if they have the same perks, because I'd use different perks on them because Bill's good for the touching, Dwight's good for the helping.
The touching, yeah, Bill. Poor
dirty
Bill.
old man.
Yeah,
he's poor Bill. I don't know. I know about it. Poor William. Poor Bill. No.
Yeah, poor everyone else, I think.
Yeah.
Cool.
And good.
I do love the event. I think it's good. I haven't even escaped with a lantern yet. It's impossible.
You haven't?
No, it's hard for me. I'm scared.
Loser. I've escaped like a couple times, at least 3 or 4 times.
But
I'm good though. So.
Question about it, because I'm confused. When the lanterns turn red, you can't get them when someone's on a hook.
I think you can. I think you can grab them. Red, the killer can break them.
Oh.
Otherwise, the killer can't. And they only turn red when he hooks someone, and then he has like a window of time to break them.
That's cool. Okay.
But then I don't think they respawn. There's only a certain number of them, I believe, per trial. So you've got to break them when it's advantageous. And then, also, if you put in the envelope, you get the extra points, spawns extra ones, so that's always cool. And then, like I said, you get the firecrackers, which actually look different, I thought, than the party starter things, so that's cool. Sort of like a black cat sort of thing happening there.
Mm-hmm. I do love the fireworks on the gens, too. Scares me to shit every time.
So good. Yeah, on the gens and the hooks, they're perfect.
Yeah, it's fun.
And then let's see. Next thing that I've got here, is our perk of the week, perk of the episode.
Perk of the week.
This one we're gonna live forever, because
so good.
If you're running low on BP, we're gonna live forever. It's almost the like Survivor equivalent of barbecue and chili.
Yeah.
Each time you rescue or take a hit to protect a survivor, you gain 25% stackable bonus to all blood point gains, up to a maximum of 50, 75, or 100%, which are awarded post-trial, just like BBQ. So that's an easy way to double your blood points. And
that's really good.
Yeah, and it's so good. I use it frequently. And that matched with, like, if you are going to run that, and it's nice to be the good guy versus just farming, having what is it? Prove thyself, or is it leader now that heals? We'd have to look. That's probably more DBD news. They've reworked a bunch of stuff from the last patch. They said they adjusted the hook timer, but I feel like there's no difference in the hook placements. But
nope, not at all.
But they did rework Prove Thyself and the repair for leader. But I think the big call out there was it wasn't really a buff, and it was just a change. Like, they moved the repair speed to 1, and then all the other action speeds to the other, and then they actually fixed a bug that was preventing, like, whenever you would have more than one survivor working on a gen, there is supposed to be like a repair speed penalty per survivor. So rather than going at 100 plus 100%, now you're going at 90 plus 90 or 80 plus 80. And so with the perk, it kind of works to null that out so that everyone's working at peak efficiency. And that was, I guess, originally a bug that they thought, actually, it's not taking it away. We don't care. It's mostly okay. But as survivors get better at gin rushing and stuff, I think they decided that it was worthwhile. So that's all the changes. There was some talk about it, I guess, in the PTB that it was causing these survivors to be able to repair so insane fast, but that was just a bug in the PTB. So they fixed that. And yeah, so it was like, I saw a couple of the videos where it was like, it's like, seriously, I think it was like 4 or 5 seconds or something where they were just like done. And so that was not intended. They did fix that. And
that would be insane.
Yeah, I wouldn't hate it. I mean, I pretty much only play Survivor at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would not mind that.
Yeah, and the 90 change doesn't really, I mean, you still, like you did me, you still are going faster with another person. So, I mean, it's
essentially like you're just doing 180%. Like if you just think about it as just yourself, when somebody else sits down and starts helping you repair, you went from 100 to 180.
Yeah.
That's still a dramatic improvement and still totally worthwhile.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. I don't really know of any other big upcoming changes that I've heard of. There is a Moonrise screenshot contest that you can do. So definitely check that out. It's through the official DBD. Check out the forums or their Instagram or whatever. Maybe we can throw that in the link description if I remember.
For sure.
Actually, I'll make a note of that right now. But that's pretty cool. Cool way to win something. They're doing it just for the... So that's definitely worth a check out. And the last thing I have in my item, the dock, still very annoying and not fun to play against. But there is always Calm Spirit. So there's that.
Calm Spirit, because the doctor sucks. Everyone hates him. So on that note, we're going to go out with a bang with a fuck you, doctor. And we're going to get off these hooks because this is really cramping my style.
The blood has started to dry.
It's not good. And it's cold in this map.
It's so cold.
Yeah, so we're going to get off these hooks and wrap up. All right, let's wrap this baby up.
Yeah.
So... on our wrap-up, we just wanted to tell you guys that we are moving to bi-weekly.
Woo, woo.
Woo, woo. More of us, more of you.
More bloody action,
more of everyone.
More of the time.
Yes, so our plan is to do a movie review on one episode and a game review on the other, just to kind of keep it separated and lively so all of you guys can tune in to what you like best. Do you have anything to add to that?
Not really. Yeah, just trying to make it so that we can release more of the episodes more often, so that you're not waiting a full month. Keeps us in the swing of things. Keeps us trying to increase the quality of the podcast overall. Audio quality is by far the most. It's our biggest learning experience every time.
Yes.
So keeping the quality up is important. We want to get better at that, and practice makes perfect, and that's going to help us with just kind of being more available. Because for me, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are every week, and I like, they release whenever they release, and I'm expecting them, and that's always nice. So we want to get closer to that. Definitely can't pump out weekly stuff at this point, but I think splitting up, the movie and the game will give everyone a little bit of something. We'll be still doing all the game news, movie news each episode. And if we have something totally awesome that we want to review, we might break the mold and do both in one episode. But yeah, for now, one a piece, and that'll still get you the same amount each month, but more.
Absolutely, but more. But wait, there's
always.
Yes, but so on that note, with bi-weekly. I was going to say something, and now I totally forgot. I don't remember. Maybe I got nothing.
Well, maybe even to go with that, with trying to get more content out there, we're looking to do Friday streams weekly, every week, as like a way to, on our Twitch channel, playing games. We looking into this Friday, 6 Eastern. Ew. We're gonna be doing something special on the Twitch stream. Right now, we're thinking maybe a watch party where we all can watch a movie together using this service. We're gonna try and make sure that works before we give too many details. Otherwise, we might be playing some games on there, undetermined, but definitely
some DBD.
DBD is always probably a good standby. Probably see Visage show up on there, just as I'll be playing it for the review coming up. Resident Evil, who knows? But yeah,
hopefully.
this Friday we're gonna try. We'll start pumping out more info once we get some of the details ironed out with that. But I think doing a watch party would be pretty neat, especially if we watch the one that they end up voting in for like next week or something. That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, then we can review it. Yeah, I'm always down to watch horror movies with anyone. So we're gonna figure out that streaming service with watching movies together. But everyone's invited. We want everyone to be scared. Spookied. But yeah, keep an eye on us at The Bloody Arcade on Twitter. We have polls, we have clips, and we have links for the horror news that we had. Did your bunny just die?
No, I don't know what that was, but yeah.
But yeah, so on The Bloody Arcade, Twitter, we have polls, we have clips for everything that we've talked about, and you guys can check out the short story that was in the horror news today. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, as always, thanks for playing at The Bloody Arcade.